What's going on, comic fans? It is Mike from the Hardcover Comic here. Hope everyone's been doing well, staying safe and sound. And if you're not, I wish you a quick and healthy recovery. Today, I wanted to talk about 5 titles that just so happen to have female protagonists. Figured I'd bring it up because we talk about comics all the time, and most of them, for the most part, are they have male protagonists, male teams, and all that, which is fine, no problem with that at all. But if you are interested in a book that sort of has a female lead and maybe gives you a different perspective, because typically they do, there are 5 titles here I'm going to recommend. Of course, there are a plethora of fantastic titles by many, many creators and publishers that female protagonists are the leads in, but I wanted to focus on 5 today, and next time I'll do another 5. So without further ado, let's jump into the first book. The first title I wanted to talk about is published by Image Comics. It is written by Ed Brubaker with artwork by Steve Epting and Elizabeth Brettweiser. A phenomenal title. It's called Velvet. Like I said, published by Image Comics. It's Ed Brubaker doing what he does best, as always, spy, espionage, noir style book. The story takes place primarily in the 60s, mid-60s. It does do a little bit of jumping back and forth as you start to learn more and more about the story, but the story focuses on a character named Velvet Templeton. Velvet Templeton is a character who works at, she's basically a secretary at this organization called RCA 7, which is sort of an espionage firm that, they take care of global problems that have to deal with, the end of the world and nuclear apocalypse and fun things like that. And she's a secretary, but she's more than that. She's got quite a past involving espionage and spy work. And the story in general is 15 issues total, so a nice lengthy story. It is a complete story. This is a single volume deluxe edition if you're interested in picking it up. Like I said, it focuses on this character, Velvet, as she basically begins to understand and unravel this conspiracy within RCA 7. We get to see her interact with various characters like her bosses, government officials, and other spies and people within the espionage world, as it were. And it's really great. It's fantastic. There's a lot of phenomenal action, car chases, jumping from buildings, hand-to-hand combat, gunfights. Everything about Velvet is spectacular. I mean, especially the colors by Elizabeth Brettweiser. I've always thoroughly enjoyed Steve Epting's artwork so much, especially when I got introduced to him reading Ed Brubaker's run on Captain America. But seeing it here, he's gotten so much better. I mean, sometimes you look at some of the artwork and it looks like a straight-up photo. I mean, a straight-up photo or this gorgeous, beautiful painting. And a lot of that has to do with Brettweiser's colors. She is such an incredible talent. You're probably very familiar with her work if you've read anything by Ed Brubaker. She does most, if not all, of the coloring on his books, whether he's working with Sean Phillips or Steve Epting or whoever it may be. So many layers and so much ambiance and atmosphere added thanks to her. Oh, so good, so good. And this is a book that every time I sit down to read it, I end up crushing it in a single sitting. It's so good. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. The cliffhangers are fantastic. You just want to find out what the hell is going on in this story and why Velvet keeps getting into the situations she's getting into, regardless of whatever plans she comes up with. Really well done. Pick up this deluxe if you can. The next title I'm going to talk about, unfortunately, I don't have the book for, but I've read it all digitally. I did a whole video on this. It is the sensational She-Hulk run by John Byrne. She-Hulk is a character that I was not overly familiar with, and I wasn't too excited about, but I've always loved John Byrne, and so I gave it a chance, especially with the omnibus that was coming out that is now released. Blown away, absolutely blown away by it. It is so much fun. It's compelling. The artwork is magnificent. The colors are fantastic. And She-Hulk is just such a great character to follow, especially when John Byrne is doing what he does in the series, breaking the fourth wall with her regularly, whether she's talking to you as a reader or she's talking about what John Byrne is making her do in the title. It's so much fun. It's just a great time. It's another series that you'll sit and you'll just keep reading and wanting to read more and more of. You get to see Jennifer deal with various relationships within her life, being She-Hulk, trying to be a lawyer, of course, trying to be in relationships and be on superhero teams, but also find herself and her purpose in life. It's so great. It's fantastic. Definitely made me far more interested in She-Hulk. I'm very excited to check out the Dan Slott run that's coming. There is an omnibus dropping for that later this year as well. Very exciting. She-Hulk's a character that I now think is underrated, and I definitely want to check out more of. Next up is a run that I think a lot of people have been asking for, an official oversized hardcover format. I know there's absolutely a cult following for this title. It is Batgirl by Brian Q. Miller. This was about 24 issues long, really well done. There are two complete collections that you can pick up. They're trade paperbacks, which is what I did and had them bound into this custom hardcover here because I absolutely love this run so much. From the writing to the artwork to the aesthetic of it all. It follows Stephanie Brown as Batgirl. Stephanie Brown is also taking up the mantle of spoiler in the past, and I believe Robin for a short stint as well, if I'm not mistaken. But essentially, Stephanie Brown is a teenage girl going through high school. She's dealing with a lot of family problems. I'm not going to spoil anything, but she's got quite a family. Um, yeah, quite a family. And, she's dealing with relationships and her education and trying to figure out her purpose in life as well. She has this incredible admiration for the Bat family and, of course, wants to be a part of it while Batman is telling her not to. So she's constantly struggling with him while trying to maintain the mantle of Batgirl. And I'm glad we got those complete collections. I'm glad it was all completed because there are a lot of characters that unfortunately I would love to read more about, but I just can't. In particular, what comes to mind talking about Batgirl is the Kelly Puckett run that was being released by DC Comics in nice trade paperbacks. I think they got about 4 volumes out that I had purchased all of, and I was hoping for more to finish up the run, get those all custom bound, have a nice little set for Cassandra Cain Batgirl on my shelf. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. Same thing goes for like Supergirl by Peter David. Unfortunately, another run I would love to see. But it's great that you can pick this up. You can get the entire run. It's totally worth it. Really great character. Gives you a nice perspective on, how some people really struggle to balance things and how it'll affect their day-to-day life and their hobbies as well, if you will. So great. I absolutely loved it. The aesthetic of her costume, the action sequences, everything is so well done. Brian Q. Miller makes it fun, emotional. He makes Stephanie Brown a character you truly, really start to care and feel concern for. This is fantastic. If you've read something like Batman Eternal and it piqued your interest about Stephanie Brown, take a little trip back in time, check out Brian Q. Miller's run. Another DC character that does not get enough love is Zatanna. I mean, she gets a decent amount of love. I know a lot of people, whenever you read a story with Zatanna, you fall in love with her as a character. She's fantastic. If you don't know who Zatanna is a magician who practices backwards magic. What that means is she'll say something in reverse, rearrange the orders backward, the letters backwards, and whatever she says, that's what happens. Her father was Zatara, who was I believe a Silver Age or a Golden Age character who had the same powers. He was part of the JSA and he helped heroes deal with supernatural problems. Really fantastic. What's great about this book is it follows her day-to-day life as she's essentially an act in Vegas, similar to Penn and Teller. She's doing what people think are parlor tricks, but they're real magic. And you get to see her interact with her cousin, who's also an aspiring magician, and other people within her circle of entertainers, as I guess you could say. She deals with a lot of supernatural characters here, goes to hell, all sorts of craziness is happening. It's a lot of fun, but what's really cool about it is you get to see Zatanna develop and sort of open up about her personal tragedies and traumas and problems that she's experiencing in her life and her own insecurities even. She's been in other titles like Justice League Dark as well, and played a very significant role in the event Identity Crisis, if you're interested in that. Very significant role. So I highly suggest checking that out. This run in particular is the run by Paul Dini. Thankfully, there is a complete collection trade paperback that does collect this entire series, which I had custom bound into this lovely hardcover comic here. So much fun. There's a variety of artists here. Unfortunately, it's not a consistent artist, but you get great artists like Jesus Saiz, Stephanie Rowe, and a plethora of others. It's kind of disconcerting when there's a plethora of artists, but thankfully the styles are not drastically different. So it's not like, what am I reading the same title? Some books you'll read an issue, then you read the next one, and it goes from like Ivan Reyes to like Scotty Young, and you're like, what? Is this the right book? Did I pick up the right title this month? But this is all, again, different artists, but really comes together nicely. And I'm really glad I got to learn more about Zatanna and experience her world a little bit more, because I've seen her, again, in teen books and stuff like that. But it's great that she had her own single series. The only problem I have with this is I feel like Paul Dini had something, he had greater plans in motion. And I don't know if the series was canceled prematurely by DC Comics or if Paul Dini had to leave the title for some reason. But either way, I think there was more to this story than what we got. It's still really good. It's still fantastic. I really, really enjoy this run. I reread it almost every year. So much fun. I hope we get to see Zatanna in the spotlight a little more in the future. If you've been a fan of the channel for a long time, you've probably heard me talk about this series many, many times. It is Lazarus, published by Image Comics, created by Greg Rucka and Michael Lark, two phenomenal creators. Greg Rucka, particularly, I'm sure if I make parts 2 and 3 for this series, there are going to be plenty more titles by him because he is very much a writer who enjoys writing female-led comics. This title follows the Carlisle family, and specifically within that family, a woman named Forever. Forever Carlisle is the Lazarus of the Carlisle family. What that means is essentially these Lazari are people that each family has their own Lazarus. They're sort of the commander, the topmost part of the military portion of the family. And essentially in this universe, families control territories. They control a section of a nation. Basically, borders have been redivided, and these wealthy families are now the rulers of the world. And you get to see Forever start to learn about her history, learn about the conspiracies against her, learn about secrets and lies that have been perpetrating throughout the family for years and years and years as she starts to understand the world more. She starts visiting other families and interacting with more Lazari and other people and understanding that maybe things are not the way they should be or things could be better. Aside from, the sort of high-level overview like that, there's magnificent action sequences in here. Michael Lark knocks it out of the park. You get to see Forever kick some serious butt, get her butt seriously kicked, and you get to see the consequences of that, how it affects her. Really awesome, really compelling storyline. Thankfully, The Old Guard, which is a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it, did really well on Netflix, and I am hopeful that because of that we get a stepping stone to something with Lazarus, whether that's a series of movies or a Netflix series, a TV series if you will, a show, because it deserves it. This would be beautiful as a show. It's not too crazy. The budget wouldn't have to be monumental, but it's a really fantastic storyline with a great cast of characters, and Forever is easily one of my favorite characters of all time. Seeing her grow and develop and be the badass that she is so rewarding and so great. This is a story that'll plenty of highs and lows, good times, horrific times. Really recommend it. These 3 deluxe editions I have in front of me are the 3 deluxe editions currently available. They collect, I believe, all of Lazarus except for like the last issue. And then it collects a mini-series, Volume 3, called X plus 66, which is like 66 years in the future. So very nice that we have most of the series, if not most of the series, collected in these hardcovers. Greg Rucka and Michael Lark are continuing the series with Lazarus Risen, which has been going for, I think, 4, 5, 6 issues at this point. They're all oversized issues, so 50 to 60 pages, which is nice too. I'm hoping we get to see a Volume 4 at some point collecting that material. But in the meantime, check out Lazarus however you can. So those are the 5 titles with female protagonists that happen to have female protagonists that I wanted to talk about this time. I'm definitely going to do this more. There are so many titles now I'm realizing that have female protagonists that I've thoroughly enjoyed. And what do you guys think? What are some female protagonists that you really enjoy, whether they're from DC Comics, Marvel, Image, Boom, Dynamite, whatever publisher they may be? Let us know down in the comments below. Let's spread the love so other people can be aware of what they may or may not be missing. What did you think of the titles I talked about? Would you like to see an actual oversized hardcover and omnibus for Batgirl or Zatanna? I know I would. I know I really would. I know. I just hope those characters get them because they're such great runs, such great characters that are getting very much overlooked by the general public. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Please subscribe if you guys haven't already. We do also have a Patreon where we do hardcover comics every month. This past month, July, our winner got the Preacher Omnibus Volume 1. Very excited for them to get that. And check us out on Instagram. There's been a little thing down there below. We do stories, posts daily and whatnot. A lot of fun stuff going on there. But thank you all very much for tuning in. This is Mike from the Hardcover Comic. I hope you guys are all staying safe and sound. And if you're not, like I said at the beginning of the video, I wish you a speedy recovery. And I hope things get better. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Until next time, you stay classy, Internet.